Right now on Morning News Now, tragedy on campus. 2 students and 2 teachers are dead and several others injured after a suspect, just 14 years old, opens fire at an Atlanta area high school.
Everybody was like calling 911 and their moms, and we could still hear like the screaming and shooting outside, and it's just scary.
If something like this can happen here when you think it's a normal day, it could happen anywhere.
Now, the community and the country are remembering the victims as the teenage suspect faces murder charges and will be tried as an adult. We have team coverage. Also this morning, the Biden administration taking action against Russia for what it calls attempts to interfere in the November election. This as both the Trump and Harris campaigns finally agreed to the ground rules for their next debate. Plus, another major endorsement from a key Republican. Who is Liz Cheney voting for? We're going to bring you the latest. Sweltering in the West. That's right. Summer's still in full swing in the western part of the country. Some areas bracing for another day of triple-digit temps. We're tracking the conditions, the dangers, and what to expect where you live. Plus, just a fantasy? An eye-opening new report shows just how attainable the American dream really is for the average family. Our friends at Investopedia added up the costs of milestones like getting married, buying a house, and having children. We're going to break down the numbers and how much you need to make that dream a reality. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. With the school year barely underway, another community is in mourning, this time in Georgia. The school shooting left 4 people dead yesterday at Appalachia High School. It happened around 10:20 Wednesday morning. Police say they were notified after a teacher pressed a security button on their ID tag. It's a new alarm system the school started using just about 1 week ago. Investigators say officers arrived on the scene within minutes of that notification, and the teenage suspect surrendered immediately when confronted by police. They've identified that suspect as 14-year-old Colt Gray, who was a student at the school. Police say he is charged with murder and will be tried as an adult. At this point, investigators have not said anything about a possible motive. The 4 victims who were killed are 2 14-year-old students and 2 math teachers. 9 other people were injured, 8 students and 1 teacher. The community came together at a vigil last night to honor the victims and their families, and the school will be closed for the rest of the week. One student described what they went through yesterday as horrific.
It's really terrifying. It's like, how could somebody so young do that? No matter where you are, you're not safe at all. I mean, even in a school that has officers everywhere, you're never safe.
We will speak with NBC News senior law enforcement analyst Cedric Alexander in a moment, but we start with NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar, who is on the ground in Winder, Georgia.
I'm here at Appalachia High School, the latest scene of a mass shooting at an American public school. This morning, we're learning new information about both the suspect and the victims. The suspect has been identified as 14-year-old Colt Gray, a student at this high school, and he was actually previously known to law enforcement. They even conducted interviews with him just last year because of several violent threats that were made online. No charges were filed at the time, and authorities say that they have already conducted interviews with him and his family, but could give no further details about a possible motive here. Now, 4 people here have died. 2 of those were 14-year-old students. 2 were math teachers, and 1 was also a football coach. In addition to that, 9 others have been injured. 1 of them has been identified as a teacher and a golf coach. The other 8 were students, and they're all expected to make a full recovery. Now, this all happened at around 10:20 yesterday morning. Authorities say that 2 school resource officers were able to apprehend the suspect and get him to surrender without having to engage in any gunfire. Of course, the investigation will continue. More interviews will be conducted this week. The school will be closed for the rest of the week, and they are making grief counselors available to the students. Joe?
All right, Priya, thank you so much. Let's bring in NBC News senior law enforcement analyst Cedric Alexander. He's also the former chief of police in DeKalb County in Georgia. Good to have you with us, Cedric. So let's start with the biggest question. I want to recap some of what Priya said, dig a little deeper into what happened a year ago. In a statement from the FBI, they said it had investigated the suspect last year when he was just 13 years old after receiving tips that he was allegedly making online threats against the school. The FBI then passed those on to local law enforcement. He and his father were interviewed. His father told authorities there were hunting guns in the house, but the suspect did not have unsupervised access to them. The teen denied making any online threats. The FBI said there was no probable cause, so they did not arrest him. The sheriff's office then alerted the school district to monitor the teen. All right, so there's a lot we don't know yet, but is this a case where everything worked as it should have and this still happened, or does this show that maybe there are still gaps in the system when something like this is flagged a year ago?
Well, clearly there's going to always be gaps in the system such as this. And even though everything was done based on the information that was acquired a year ago in terms of the threat, it was followed up by the FBI, followed up by local law enforcement. The school was notified and put on alert. However, here again, when you don't have probable cause for an arrest or remove that child from that school, then they still have the right to go to school every day. But clearly, if the father says, hey, my child has no unsupervised access to those weapons, that clearly is probably not going to be true. But that'll be later determined in this investigation as well, too. So efforts were put into play. But in addition to those efforts being put into play, we still sometimes, our authorities, our local police, our schools still cannot maintain total control over one individual, because you have to remember you have a school of 2,000 children who come from homes that may have access to guns, or they may have access to guns. It's being on alert all the time, not just with that one individual, in this case where there was no probable cause, but it was sad. And even indication here again, that was given early. It just didn't work out the way we would have liked for it to work out.
With the school district saying it was going to monitor the student, do we know, generally speaking, who would be responsible for monitoring this student? And what are some of the signs that they should be looking for?
Well, it probably wouldn't be no one individual that would be monitoring this child. The school administration, the front office, teachers may have been notified last year. But how was that followed up going into this new school year? And that becomes the question. But here again, you also have 2,000 other young people that you have to watch and observe and make sure that they're doing the things that they need to be doing academically, athletically, and all these other parts of that high school culture that is so important to the everyday function.
Clearly, there's going to be some kind of review as to what went on in that interaction with law enforcement a year ago and what's happened since then. What kinds of questions would you want to know the answers to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, to see what we can do, what changes can be made to prevent tragedies like this?
Well, of course, to get to the place where they are today, the notifications that were made, the FBI followed up accordingly, local sheriff's office followed up accordingly, the school followed up accordingly. All we can do at this point is really just go back and look to see when we have this notification about one individual student, no probable cause has been gained. Was it serious? Was it a prank? Did it have the potential to turn deadly, such as this case? And what else more can we do to monitor these types of situations? Do they have gun detection technology there at that school? What are some of the things that they have to sit down together and make some determination and try to see what is it we can glean and learn from this sad incident that occurred on yesterday?
All right. Cedric Alexander, good to have you with us. Appreciate your expertise. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
The Biden administration is going after Russia over alleged attempts to manipulate U.S. public opinion ahead of the November election. 2 employees of the Russia-backed media network RT are facing charges in what the White House says are Russian government-sponsored attempts to interfere with the election. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now with the details. Ken, good morning. So these charges were announced yesterday by Attorney General Merrick Garland. What are we learning about these alleged attempts to try and interfere with the election?
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, this effort by the U.S. government goes beyond just that indictment. The FBI also seized 32 internet domains it said was being used by Russia for propaganda purposes, and Treasury and state sanctioned some other individuals. But the indictment is the most interesting part. It accuses these two RT executives of funneling $10 million to a U.S. media company that knew it was working with the Russians, but then spewed Russian propaganda essentially to the American political system without disclosing that the source was Russia. Take a listen to Attorney General Merrick Garland.
An internal planning document created by the Kremlin states that as a goal of the campaign is securing Russia's preferred outcome in the election. The American people are entitled to know when a foreign power is attempting to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to send around its own propaganda.
And so the U.S. intelligence community has said that Russia's preferred outcome is for Donald Trump to win and Kamala Harris to lose. But Russia also has a goal of creating chaos and sowing discord, according to U.S. intelligence officials, Joe.
So, Ken, I know a senior State Department official says it's designating 6 RT affiliates that operate in the U.S. as foreign missions. What exactly does that mean?
What it means is that it's a clear statement that these are agents of a foreign government, arms of a foreign government, not media organizations. So it empowers the U.S. to take certain actions that it can't really take against media. And that underscores that they have a thorny problem here with the First Amendment. The First Amendment applies even to foreign actors in the United States. They can speak freely. They can lie. What they can't do, though, is disguise funding from a foreign source. That violates the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is what's alleged here, Joe.
So, Ken, we know this is certainly not the first time Russia has attempted to interfere with an election here in the U.S. How does this new alleged effort by Russia, the allegations here, compare with what we've seen in the past?
It's even more brazen. I think what's so interesting about this is it shows how the U.S. government has changed since 2016. In 2016, the FBI and the Justice Department watched helplessly while Russia interfered in that election with fake personas on social media with a hacking and leaking campaign, and only spelled it out years after the fact in an indictment. In this case, they're being proactive. Months after they discovered this effort, they've now shut it down before the election. They've told the American people about it. There's an American media company in Tennessee that has now been outed as working with Russian propaganda. So this is an effort to try to nip this in the bud. Unfortunately, the media ecosystem has become more complicated. There are people today on social media, Joe, saying that this indictment is a hoax and can't be believed, and they are echoing Russian talking points.
And a lot of people will believe that. All right, Ken Delanian, I appreciate your reporting as always. Thank you. Today is exactly 2 months from Election Day, which falls on November 5th this year. Millions of people will head to the polls to elect the next president and many other elected officials. We're also now just 5 days away from the highly anticipated debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump. After much back and forth, the two campaigns have finally agreed to the rules for next Tuesday's 90-minute debate in Philadelphia. It will be held without an audience. Candidates' microphones will be muted when it's not their turn to speak. VP Harris and Mr. Trump will not be allowed notes or props, and both will stand for the entire debate. In other words, the rules and format will mirror the June debate between President Biden and the former President Trump. Another big headline today, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney is the latest high-profile Republican to endorse Vice President Harris. She made the remarks during an appearance at Duke University. Cheney says it's, quote, crucially important for voters to understand that they don't have the luxury of writing in candidates' names, especially in swing states. Cheney has been a vocal critic of former President Trump, a stance that cost her her congressional seat. And a programming reminder, we will have coverage of next week's presidential debate hosted by ABC News. Our coverage gets underway Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern here on NBC News Now and on NBC. This morning, we're hearing more about the issues impacting young voters in this year's election. We first told you yesterday about a new NBC News Stay Tuned poll focusing on Gen Z. The data comes as younger voters grapple with the rising cost of living and concerns over debt. Our very own Savannah Sellers spoke with some of those voters to learn more about what matters most to them.
I'm very proud to be an American.
21-year-old Oglethorpe University student Ashley Ewald says when Vice President Kamala Harris entered the race, it changed the game for her and many other young voters in swing state Georgia.
I'm excited to cast my vote. I literally heard that from somebody who wasn't going to vote in November.
A first-of-its-kind NBC News Stay Tuned poll of 18 to 29-year-olds shows Harris leading with registered Gen Z voters like Ewald. 50% said they favored Harris, while 34% backed former President Donald Trump.
I think he's the best man for the job right now.
At nearby Kennesaw State University, 21-year-old Grayson Hilliard says he's having trouble making ends meet. He thinks Trump is the one who can fix that.
And I think a lot of us are struggling at this time, and we need help.
When you say you're struggling, what things feel tough?
Grocery shopping for sure. Definitely noticing having to budget a little bit more at the grocery store. Picking up the off-brand item. Definitely picking up overtime at work. Bought an electric car to save money on gas. That extra $40 goes a long way each month.
In the poll, 31% said cost of living and inflation is what matters most in this election, with 68% saying they've delayed important life milestones like buying a car or home due to debt.
How do you feel about the potential of being able to be a homeowner?
I'm worried. I don't think that the way the prices are right now, I'd ever see myself being able to afford a home or own one.
As for the VP picks, 55% in the poll said they view Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as a positive choice. As a Republican, that worries Hilliard.
I think that he is a great pick for Kamala Harris. He's that small town dad-seeming vibe, and that does appeal to a lot of voters.
32% said they have a positive opinion of Senator J.D. Vance.
As you see him interacting with everyday people, it's a little awkward. All the memes are saying this phrase, weird. And I think that when he speaks to people, you could see it.
One area of agreement for Hilliard and Ewald, setting a maximum age limit on who can run for president. 73% in the poll share that opinion.
Do I want my grandmother to be in office right now running the country as a 78-year-old? Absolutely not. She should be at the beach having fun, you know? She should be making cookies for her grandkids, you know?
They also share a commitment to voting in November, knowing the election could come down to Georgia.
I kind of wear it as a badge of honor to be in a state and also be organizing and mobilizing in a state that is such a battleground state like Georgia. All eyes are on Georgia again.
Savannah Sellers, NBC News, Atlanta.
Weather now. Temperatures in the west remain hotter than usual for September, with the Pacific Northwest bracing for record highs. Let's get a closer look at your morning news now weather with meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, good morning.
Hi there, Joe. The AC cannot be turned off yet in the west. We've got still more than 50 million people under the heat alerts, and this is going to be kind of a long duration thing that we'll see across this region, even well into the weekend. But here's those alerts now. They do, of course, include Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Phoenix, a lot of the spots that we've been seeing the really warm temperatures, but also the warmer than normal temperatures stretch up into parts of the Pacific Northwest. Look at Portland's temperature today, 102 degrees. That is more than 20 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. We've got 105 in Redding. We've got high 90s for LA today, 108 in Las Vegas, and 112 in Phoenix. We continue that stretch of more than 100 days where Phoenix has seen a temperature over 100. Now, it's typical for Phoenix to see temperatures over 100 this time of year, but we really haven't seen a whole lot of rain in that area. The monsoon hasn't been quite as active, so that stretch and that record number of days continues, and we're likely going to add to it here in the coming days as well. Phoenix 108 tomorrow, Las Vegas 106, Palm Springs even warmer at 116 degrees. We've got 90s for parts of the Rockies, 96 for Eugene. The Pacific Northwest continues to be well above normal here, even as we get early into the weekend, and that goes for parts of the Southwest too. Meanwhile, along the Gulf Coast, it's not the heat, it's the rain that's really been pesky over the past couple of days. We've got 5 million people from New Orleans to Corpus Christi under these flood alerts, and here's why. This front just is continuing to hang around, and it doesn't look like it's going to make a lot of moves here over the next 48 hours, really. So you can expect the same kind of pattern, the stalled front, the heavy showers, the thunderstorms, and of course the flooding that comes with all of that as we gear up for more rain over these already saturated grounds for multiple days. As we get into tomorrow, notice the southeast really starts to see a lot of that rain, but specifically the heaviest of it will be from Louisiana to Florida, so we'll see the difficulty maybe with air travel. We'll likely see some flooding on the roadways, so that'll slow you down for your Friday. These are the areas we're looking for the greatest flood threat. Along I-10, Houston to Jacksonville, that's where I'd want you to be keeping a close eye, specifically across parts of Louisiana, New Orleans, right in the bullseye of that. And this, again, goes through at least the end of the work week. And here's why. Rain chances, they're going to be with us through Friday. And some spots, 3 to 5 inches more likely, but we could see some isolated areas picking up up over 8 inches of rain. Again, we've had this going on for a couple of days now, so it's not going to take much to see some of that flooding occurring. And of course, the tropics. We can't forget about that. There has really been quite a lull, and I think it's gotten people's attention. Now, we still have plenty of time left in hurricane season, and we do have 4 areas that we're going to watch. Now, all of those notice they don't have a great chance of developing. Maybe one of them could bring us a little bit of rain as we get through the long-term period, but we're not looking at anything too impressive, so nothing really fairly organized, and that tropical lull will continue. Joe, it's been 2 weeks with no named storms, and this is normally the most active period of the season, so we'll take that, but we will remind there's still plenty of time left in hurricane season.
But it would be nice if this hurricane season is not as dangerous as was predicted earlier this year.
Oh, we would love that. I would love to be wrong about that.
Exactly. No kidding. All right, Angie, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Much more to come here on Morning News. Now, later this hour, is it the impossible dream? The eye-opening new data that shows just how much the American dream really costs. Up first after the break, Hunter Biden back in court. The president's son now facing federal tax charges just months after his separate gun conviction. We're going to bring you the latest as jury selection gets underway. Stay with us. Welcome back. Today, Hunter Biden will go on trial for a second time, this time for alleged tax crimes. In June, the president's son was found guilty of 3 federal felony charges tied to his possession of a gun while using narcotics back in 2018. In this latest case, Hunter Biden is accused of a 4-year scheme to avoid paying at least $1.4 million in taxes, while raking in millions from foreign businesses. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Joining us now for more is NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Good to have you with us. So this has been years in the making. Just remind us how we got to this point and what exactly Hunter Biden is accused of here.
Just as you said, Hunter Biden almost resolved this case and his other case about a year ago with a global plea agreement that fell apart at the last minute. And now he's facing felony tax evasion and false tax returns charges, where originally he was going to plead guilty to misdemeanors. And misdemeanors are a rare creature in federal court. So Hunter Biden now heading to his second federal criminal trial on these tax charges, which were going to be resolved out east in Delaware. But now, because of that plea agreement falling apart, they were filed now in California, where he's facing them in federal court. So tax evasion, false tax returns, a lot of bad facts here. I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter Biden does a last-second plea even now.
Let's look at strategy here if it does move forward. At a pretrial hearing last month, Biden's attorneys said that his addiction would be at the center of his defense. But then the judge put some restrictions on exactly what jurors can hear about his struggles with addiction. First, how could that impact the defense's strategy?
So it goes to his intent. That's what they're going to try to argue. And even to the extent it doesn't go to his intent, his defense is wisely using it for sympathy. So as much as they can get in about Biden's addiction, they will. They will crowbar it in, even if it doesn't directly go to his lack of intent. Because that's the argument. He was so addled by drugs, he couldn't form the necessary intent to file these false business and personal tax returns and commit these other alleged tax crimes. It's going to be difficult because you're going to be speaking to a jury, presumably, of all taxpayers, like you, like me, like probably everyone on the jury. And that really is going to be, the prosecutors are going to wisely argue, look, he's not special. We all have to pay taxes. He chose not to.
Yeah, but because most of us don't like paying taxes, so those jurors will probably be just like, guys, what does the prosecution need to do here to try and get that guilty verdict?
That's what they're going to take some of their best facts. Federal prosecutors are excellent at combing the evidence and finding this stuff that will really irritate a jury. And case in point, some of the evidence they are presumably going to show is that Hunter Biden used money and failed to essentially used as business expenses tuition payments for his daughter, allegedly, nights with an escort, dinners at Nobu, which is, one of the fanciest restaurants in the United States. These are the kinds of things that, look, when it comes to business expenses, anyone out there who has a business of their own, there are close calls, there are gray areas, but nights with an escort, there's no gray area there. That is not a business expense.
Let's look ahead to November here. That is when Hunter Biden is set to be sentenced for his conviction with the gun charges. He could face up to 25 years in prison, but what's the reality here for someone like him? Will he actually serve prison time?
Yeah, the statutory maximum in federal court is the correct reportable fact because it's the only knowable number before sentencing. But far more likely, the judge will hew to what's called the U.S. sentencing guidelines. And those spit out a number that's usually a lot less than the statutory maximum sentence, because you arrive at that number by taking every single count and lining them up end to end to end. At the time, Hunter Biden was a first-time offender. Not likely that he's going to get the statutory maximum, probably more likely in the range of 15 to 21 months. But if he's convicted in this tax case, he now becomes somebody with a prior criminal history, and that dramatically affects your sentencing the second time around. Another reason why I just wonder why Hunter Biden didn't resolve this globally the first time around. Even if on the first run he didn't get the deal he wanted, it was still a great deal. He could have just pleaded open and just resolved the whole thing. So this is going to put him in a tough position.
But a plea deal is still possible, you say?
Possible, vanishingly likely, but still theoretically possible, something you should still consider. Pardon is his best bet.
There is that, too. All right, Danny Savalas, appreciate it. Thank you so much. International news now. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a rare press conference for the international media. It came after several days of mass protests by Israelis demanding a deal to free the hostages in Gaza. We're also learning the U.S. is considering its own deal with Hamas to free the American hostages. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez has the latest.
Night after night, Israelis taking to the streets demanding their prime minister make the concessions needed to reach a hostage deal. An embattled yet defiant Benjamin Netanyahu declaring he won't withdraw troops from the Egypt-Gaza border, known as the Philadelphia Corridor.
Gaza must be demilitarized, and it can only be demilitarized if the Philadelphia Corridor remains under firm control.
The corridor is a major part of the stalemate in ceasefire talks, and Israeli forces waited until May to take control of it.
If the Philadelphia corridor is so critical as you say, why is it you left it 7-8 months into the Israeli ground offensive before seizing it?
Well, it was critical also to destroy Hamas, to kill about 20,000 of their operatives. This was the military plan that the military and the political echelon agreed upon.
Public fury over Hamas's killing of these 6 hostages and the Israeli government's failure to save them. Among the dead, 27-year-old Almog Sarusi.
The mother of Almog Sarusi, one of the murdered hostages, says you sacrificed her son on the altar of the Philadelphia corridor. If the price of your refusal to withdraw from the Egypt-Gaza border is more hostages are killed, is that a price you are prepared to pay? And is that a price the people of Israel will accept?
I can understand the great torment that the mother of this murdered hostage feels. I'm committed to getting all of them out.
Neither the prime minister nor the protesters backing down.
And 5 sources tell NBC News that the U.S. is considering a direct deal with Hamas to free the remaining American hostages. Such a deal is not likely. No formal offer has been made yet, but it is being considered, and it comes as the White House is under intense pressure from the families of those Americans and as it loses faith in Netanyahu.
All right, Raf, thank you so much. More international headlines now. Ukraine's president announced a major government overhaul as the war against Russia drags on. NBC's Claudio Lavanga is in Rome with that and more world news. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced a government reshuffle, saying that the country needs new energy at this critical stage of the war. Now, last night, President Zelensky named 9 candidates for top cabinet positions, expecting parliament approval. Ahead of the reshuffling, a total of 6 ministers, including Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, have submitted their resignation. Now we travel to Haiti, where authorities have expanded the state of emergency to the entire country. The move comes as gang violence surges, taking over large parts of the capital and now spreading to nearby regions. And today, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to travel to Haiti to meet with the country's prime minister to discuss forthcoming steps in Haiti's democratic transition and the American support to its people. And let's end this tour of the world in New Zealand, where a new indigenous Maori queen has been crowned. She's 27-year-old, and her name is, and bear with me, Joe, Kingi Tuheita Potatau Te Werewero the 7th, and she succeeds her father, who died last Friday, to the throne. She was crowned in an elaborate ceremony, sitting on a carved wooden throne in front of her father's coffin, which was then transported to his final resting place on a flotilla of war canoes. She's only the second Maori queen after her grandmother, whose name is, again, royally long, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it again. Back to you, John.
All right, Claudia, congratulations to her. Thank you so much. Coming up, a diversity debate at colleges across America, 1 year after the Supreme Court's ban on affirmative action. How the decision has changed the admissions process for millions of students. And they're the real-life humans behind artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in AI. That is next. This is Morning News Now. We're back with the fallout from last year's Supreme Court ruling that ended affirmative action in college admissions. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett takes a closer look at how 1 year later, schools are now handling decisions about diversity.
The schools say they saw it coming.
We have to be open and honest about what's happening.
A noticeable drop in the number of incoming black freshmen at some of the nation's top universities. The first class admitted after last year's decision from the U.S. Supreme Court, sharply limiting the use of race in college admissions. Something Mount Holyoke College President Danielle Hawley says ushered in a sea change.
That demographic information that used to be readily in students' file is now masked. When we get that data now, the data does not have race data attached to it.
It's
so
not
there's
even,
no way.
It's not even there. It's just blank.
That's right. So there's no way for readers to know.
That fundamental shift in admissions now emerging in early data from several elite schools. Yale revealing its share of black students remains steady compared to 2023. But at MIT, black students dropping 10%. And at Amherst, black students dipping by 8%. The primary cause of the dips in enrollment, not easy to pinpoint. Some schools say delays in processing financial aid offers prompted students without means to look elsewhere.
It was a perfect storm.
In the wake of the High Court's ruling, some have turned to other ways to reach students of color, relying on more pipeline programs and coordinating with underserved high schools.
It has made our work more difficult. It really has.
The admissions team at Sarah Lawrence College decided to offer an optional essay, giving applicants a chance to respond to the Supreme Court's decision.
There's some remarkable responses in there. We're a liberal arts college. We want our students tackling big real-world issues, and this is a big real-world issue.
The school now says incoming black students have actually increased from 4% to 6%. Still, the ruling has complicated admissions for top colleges that say they want to diversify an historically white student body. But it's also served as a long-fought victory for those who've argued it was unconstitutional for schools to give any preferential treatment based on race.
Are there some students, faculty, or even peers that say to you, you know, I actually think the Supreme Court got it right?
Oh, absolutely.
There are race-neutral methods.
People like Edward Bloom, the architect behind the original lawsuit accusing Harvard and UNC of giving a boost to black applicants and discriminating against Asian students.
We just don't know what Harvard and UNC and most colleges and universities have done. Until that data is released, we're just going to have to wait and find out.
For Bloom, the work is not done, as he's now focused on what's happening in graduate school admissions and beyond.
Your race and your ethnicity doesn't tell us anything about who you are as an individual.
Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
When you think of artificial intelligence, your mind may conjure up images of massive computers whirring away in huge server farms, doing their best to imitate and maybe even surpass the human brain. Well, there are actual, real, live human beings behind all that. And today, Time Magazine is taking a look at them by releasing its list of the 100 most influential people in AI. It's Time's second annual edition, and it features CEOs, program designers, even activists. Times senior editor Asha Javed joins us now to talk more about this. Who made the list and why? Asha, good morning. Good to have you with us. So talk about some of the people featured in this year's issue and what made you choose them.
Yeah, sure. So we really have quite a range of people on the list this year. We've got the kind of more obvious names, the people who are kind of leading the AI labs like Sam Altman or Dario Amodei of Anthropic. We also have the leaders of some of the big tech firms like Sundar Pichai of Google, Alphabet, as well as Mark Zuckerberg of Meta. But we also have a range of other people who are working on all sorts of areas touching AI.
Let's talk about the theme. Similar to AI, the theme of this year's edition, it's also evolving. One of Time's editors wrote that last year was about developing AI. This year's list is about moving it out of the lab. So how do you see the people on this list making AI more accessible and bringing it into the real world for all of us to use?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned some of the big tech companies and their CEOs, and they are having an impact. So, Google and Apple, we've got Sundar Pichai and also John Gianandrea from Apple, who are basically bringing AI to our pockets and screens, increasingly so. And you're probably seeing AI in use more and more, even as you do a Google search. But then there are also people like Marques Brownlee, who is a YouTuber who has been sort of instrumental in teaching consumers and average people about AI products through his YouTube channel. We also have Victor Ripabelli, whose company is helping people create AI avatars of themselves.
And it's also, you've got a teenage girl, you've got a member of President Biden's cabinet, you've got the head for the National Education Association, among others who aren't maybe directly involved with tech in their day-to-day jobs. Why is it so important to include these people as well?
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, AI really does touch all areas of our lives and will continue to do so. Even more, it will become incredibly entrenched in our lives. And so it's really important to include the people who are not only doing the research behind AI, the people who are manufacturing and designing the chips, like Jensen Huang of NVIDIA or CC Wei of TSMC, Lisa Su of AMD, but then also the kind of the researchers who are working behind it, the activists like Francesca Manni, who you mentioned, who's doing really important work advocating for victims of deepfakes. We've got artists like Lawrence Leck and Scarlett Johansson, who was very involved in sort of holding OpenAI to account earlier this year. Actors like Anil Kapoor, the Bollywood actor, who had an important ruling in a case around ownership of his AI likeness. And so there's really a mix, people in policy as well. And we definitely want to be kind of recognizing people who are doing all the really important work around AI in all sorts of areas.
And a reminder of just all the different areas AI is already impacting in our world. All right, Aisha, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Definitely going to check out this week's edition. Thanks again.
Thanks, Joe.
Coming up, Dream On. Turns out the cost of the American dream might sound more like a nightmare. Our friend in finance, Caleb Silver, is here to break down the eye-opening new report that could have you rethinking some of your goals. And countdown to kickoff, football fans rejoice. The NFL's regular season, it starts tonight. We're going to bring you the excitement next on Morning News Now. We're back now with a new report that suggests living the so-called American dream, well, that's becoming more and more of a distant reality for many across the country. Today, families are spending more than ever on the essentials like buying a home and car, while also having the financial flexibility to save for retirement and take a yearly vacation. Our friends at Investopedia have run the numbers and now say that the American dream can cost up to $4.4 million based on the lifetime spending of an average household. Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver is here to explain the numbers that just keep adding up. $4.4 million, to be clear, lifetime, not in like 1 year. Still, it's a lot. How did you come up with that number?
Yeah, and the number is different for you. It's different for me. It's different for everybody out there. But when we think about the wants, not necessarily the needs, we're not talking about the shelter needs, the need to feed your family, these aspirations, we've brought things together like retirement, owning a new car every once in a while, paying for a wedding, raising a couple kids, sending them to college, having a pet, taking an annual vacation. These are aspirations in today's dollars, given inflation, $4.4 million for a household. Again, it could cost up to $10 million for some, $1 million for others. The thing is, Joe, if you think about how much we make, if we make the median income over a lifetime of earnings, it's about $1 million or so less than that. So you got to think about other ways if you want to live this type of lifestyle.
Fascinating to see the numbers laid out like that, especially new cars, nearly $1 million there. I mean, not every family wants the same things. How do you account for that?
Yeah, so we took what would be reasonable for a household in this country, 3+ people, sending a couple of kids to a public university. We're not talking about the private, most prestigious universities in the world. Thinking about the things that people would like to do if they had that flexibility. And that does include a vacation. Who don't you know that says, I'm going to try to take a vacation with my family, even if it's a short one, but also the things you can't avoid. If you want to marry off somebody in your family, if you have to bury someone in your family. So it's different for everybody. Single people might have a different outlook on this. But if you think about when couples work together, dual incomes of college-educated couples, you get to this number. The thing we don't do enough of when we think about our money is think about the cost of what it costs to be us. What does it actually cost to be the us we want to be? This is kind of a look into that.
And some people, of course, spend too much to be the person they can't afford to be.
They're in a dream state constantly.
Exactly. Inflation obviously is a huge issue. We've talked about it a lot over the last few years, and that, of course, makes it harder to reach some of these goals. Is that the only thing at play here, or are there other things at play that are making it hard to get to some of these goals?
Yeah, inflation is definitely one of them. And you think about the money we spend on shelter alone, and it's now over 35% for some families, even with a mortgage, that takes away a lot of that disposable income or the income we might need to put something away for retirement. Retirement is when you stop earning that income. You want to live off of your money. So we put that in as well, $1.6 million when you want to stop working and live off your money, assuming a drawdown. So inflation is definitely a big factor there. But there's this gap between how much it really costs to be us with reasonable expectations. I don't think any of this is outlandish, and how much we actually make over a lifetime. That's where investing comes in. You have to fill the gap somehow, have your money work for you.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, this might discourage some people. What's your top tip for people who feel discouraged?
Yeah, get started and know your own number. It might not be 4.4, it might be less, and you can get to it. Once you know the number, work back from that. But you have to invest in yourself and have your money work for you.
All right, fascinating stuff. Caleb Silver, thank you so much. More money news now. The chief executives of grocery giants Kroger and Albertsons were in court yesterday defending the company's nearly $25 billion merger. CNBC's Savannah Henao has that and some other money news. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. Yes, so the CEO of Kroger is insisting a merger with rival Albertsons will allow the supermarkets to lower prices and compete better with Walmart, Costco, and Amazon. He testified yesterday in favor of what would be the largest grocery store merger in U.S. history in a trial where the government is seeking to block the $24 billion deal. He says the day the merger is complete is the day they start lowering prices. The Federal Trade Commission claims the deal would eliminate competition and lead to higher food prices. Qualcomm is working with Samsung and Google on new mixed reality smart glasses. Qualcomm CEO telling CNBC the glasses would be a different approach from Apple's Vision Pro. He referenced Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses, which look like regular shades but are linked wirelessly to a smartphone and have a built-in camera. Analysts expect nearly 10 million VR and AR headsets to be sold this year. That's actually still way less than the forecast of $1.2 billion smartphones. And only about a quarter of shoppers plan to spend more this holiday season than last year. A new Bankrate survey also finds just over a third say inflation will change how they shop, with just 30% planning to have money specifically set aside for the holidays. Many also expect to take on debt, including those who will use a credit card and pay off the balance over multiple billing cycles, or those who may try a buy now, pay later service, Joe.
To start thinking about that. All right, Silvana,
Yep.
thank you so much.
You got it.
For football fans across the country, the wait is finally over. The NFL is back with week 1 of the new season kicking off tonight. The road to the Lombardi Trophy begins with a matchup of 2 of the league's biggest teams, the Baltimore Ravens and defending Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. So whether you're firing up the grill at a tailgate or checking your fantasy roster, there's a lot to look forward to this season. Mike Jones is a national NFL writer for The Athletic. He joins us now with everything we can expect this season. Mike, good to have you with us. So what are you watching for as we get into week 1, especially with that Chiefs-Ravens matchup hitting prime time tonight?
Yeah, this is a big game to start off the season because these two teams faced each other last year in the AFC Championship game. Obviously, the Chiefs won by only a touchdown, but the Ravens had their chances to do it. So we'll see if the Chiefs are able to win this again and get their title defense as they're going for a three-peat, which has never happened before, if they can start off on a big note, or if the Ravens, who made some changes in the offseason, have been able to kind of catch up to the Chiefs. So this is a big way to start off the season for the NFL.
You mentioned the offseason because oftentimes when we talk about a new season, we start with what happened at the end of last season and then any changes in between. What are some of the biggest moves or picks that maybe surprised you over the last few months that maybe changed the game this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, just starting with the Ravens, they went out and got Derrick Henry, who was a longtime workhorse running back, one of the best in the league, who had played for the Tennessee Titans for his entire career. They went and added him this offseason because they felt like they needed a stronger run game to support their quarterback, Lamar Jackson, and hopefully be more balanced so they could take on the Chiefs and go toe-to-toe with them. That was a big surprise. Another one was with the Atlanta Falcons, who went out and got Kirk Cousins, who was one of the top quarterbacks on the free agent market. But then they turned around and drafted Michael Penix Jr. in the top 10 of the draft. So everybody thought Kirk Cousins is going to be their answer for a long time. And then you used your first pick on a quarterback was something that really had a lot of people around the NFL scratching their heads. So those were a couple of the most biggest surprises for the offseason.
Obviously, every fan wants to see their team go all the way. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, so I've never seen my team go all the way. You just mentioned Kirk Cousins there. Who are really the early favorites to win this year beyond the Chiefs and the Ravens?
If you look at the NFC, well, first AFC, outside of the Ravens and the Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals have a really good chance. It seems like those are the three. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills are always going to be a quality team. The Miami Dolphins are another team that you have to keep your eye on. But I say the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bengals are the three leaders in the AFC. As far as the NFC goes, there's a lot of teams that are kind of really all going to be jockeying for position. San Francisco 49ers are trying to get back there after losing in a heartbreaker in overtime to the Chiefs. But the Detroit Lions are right there. They were very close to beating San Francisco. The Green Bay Packers almost beat the 49ers late in the season in the playoffs. And the Philadelphia Eagles, who lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl before last, have reloaded, and they're trying to get back to the Super Bowl. So it's crowded in the NFC, but those are the teams that look like they have the best shot.
Let's talk about rules. We've got those Guardian caps, which add a little extra padding to players' helmets, hoping to reduce head injuries. We're also going to see some other new rules in place throughout the season. How are those going to change the game?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how many NFL players wear those Guardian caps in games. They have been required for certain positions in practices, but they also have been given permission to wear them in games if they want that extra safety measure. But the big rule change that we're going to see is with the kickoff, right to start off the game. For years, we've seen it the same way, where one team runs all the way down the field, and now they're lining up within 5 yards of each other. The kicking team lines up at the 40, the receiving team at the 35. The ball has to reach inside the 20, or it's going to be moved back out. They're trying to reduce head injuries and those violent collisions, and also make the play something that's more relevant, because a lot of teams just would kick it out of the back of the end zone in order to avoid risking. So it's going to be interesting. Nobody really knows what it's going to look like until we really see it live.
We'll see it tonight. All right, Mike Jones, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stay with us. The news continues right now. Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. Right now on Morning News Now, tragedy strikes Georgia. 2 students and 2 teachers are dead, 9 others injured after a school shooting rattles a community outside of Atlanta. What we know about the victims and why authorities say the 14-year-old suspect had been on their radar for more than a year. Also this morning, game on, a campaign handshake over the rules of next week's presidential debate after the issue of muted mics threw the event into question. It comes as Vice President Harris picks up another high-profile endorsement from across the aisle. We're going to bring you the latest from the trail. Plus, football fans, tonight's the night. The NFL season kicks off with a highly anticipated conference championship rematch. The Baltimore Ravens take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Can the Chiefs pull off the historic feat of clinching 3 Super Bowls in a row? We're in Kansas City with a preview of the action. Plus, the growing gridiron safety debate over those so-called guardian caps, bringing players a little extra padding this year. And later this hour, we are once again flipping the script with the incomparable Michael Urie. He's been a familiar face on the stage and screen for years. Now he is back on Broadway. We're going to chat about why he actually thought twice about taking his latest role in a staple of American theater, Once Upon a Mattress. Good to have you with us. Barely 1 month into the school year, a Georgia community is grieving and confronting the unthinkable. It comes after a shooting at Appalachia High School yesterday left 2 students and 2 teachers dead. 9 others were also injured. Police have identified the suspect as 14-year-old Colt Gray. They've charged him with murder. They say he is a student at the school and will be tried as an adult. So far, investigators have not said anything about a possible motive. Students and families gathered at a vigil last night to honor the victims. NBC News correspondent Priya Shrithar shares what some of those students had to say about this tragedy.
The schools here remain closed for the rest of the week as authorities continue to conduct interviews with the suspect, his family, and eyewitnesses. So many students telling me they had done active shooter drills so many times in the past, but this time it was real. And now we're learning that law enforcement actually knew of this suspect, questioning him just last year after several online threats were made.
Overnight, the city of Winder, Georgia, in mourning. The scene of terror unfolding Wednesday at Appalachia High School, where a shooter left 4 victims dead.
Still kind of in like a state of shock.
And now more information emerging about past encounters with law enforcement and the suspect in custody, 14-year-old Colt Gray. In a statement, the FBI says it received several anonymous tips about an online threat to commit a school shooting last year.
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office identified and located Gray, who is our suspect in this case. They conducted an investigation at that time, and there was no probable cause for arrest or to take any additional law enforcement action.
The FBI saying that at the time, the suspect's father was interviewed and said he had hunting guns in the house, but the subject did not have unsupervised access to them. Police say Gray, who's a student at the school, used an AR platform-style weapon. In Georgia, according to the Giffords Law Center, there are no minimum age laws restricting people under 18 from possessing rifles or shotguns, though federal law is stricter. According to authorities, the teen will be charged with murder and tried as an adult. The community still reeling from the traumatic morning at the school. Evacuated students sent to the school's football field.
Pray for these kids.
Where terrified parents desperately searched for their children.
This is a parent's worst nightmare.
The victims, including 2 14-year-old students, Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angulo. Schermerhorn's sister saying in a now-deleted post that he was autistic, later writing he did not make it out of school alive. Also killed 2 math teachers, 53-year-old Christina Irami and 39-year-old Richard Aspinwall, who was also a football coach. 8 students and a teacher were injured. The local sheriff emotional.
My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail.
According to the K-12 school shooting database, there have been 218 school shootings just this year. President Biden calling for gun safety legislation, saying in a statement, "We simply cannot accept this as normal." Back to you.
All right, Priya, thank you so much. I'm joined now by Cameron Leroy, a sophomore at Appalachia High School. Cameron, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I know you were actually in a classroom close to the hallway where the shooting happened. You were taught by one of the teachers who was killed. How are you doing this morning? What have the last 24 hours been like?
Honestly, when it first had happened and I was safe at home after the whole situation occurred, I was still in a state of shock. So it didn't really settle in and hit me until later last night. I noticed that the people that were killed and the people that were wounded, I could possibly never see again, especially my geometry teacher, Mr. Aspinwall, who's a really nice person, and may he rest in peace.
What else should we know about Mr. Aspinwall?
He was a football coach. He had 2 kids and a wife, and his wife was pregnant. And it's just really sad to see him go. And he was taken from us way too early.
Did you know any of the 2 students, Christian and Mason, at all?
I did not know any of them, but my prayers go out to their families.
Absolutely. I know you heard those gunshots. When you heard them, what went through your mind at first? Did you know what was happening, or did you think it was possibly some other noise?
Some other noise, honestly. But then when it wouldn't stop, I started getting concerned. And when my teacher looked out the window towards getting in the corner, I kind of knew that it was a shooting. So from there, I was just praying to God to keep me safe and all my friends. I was just praying that I made it out of there alive. And I know that some people did not.
In that moment, what did you and the other students do inside that classroom? What did your teacher do in response?
So my teacher, he told us to get in the corner and get down and stay quiet. And then he locked the doors, turned the lights off, and put the big black board. It's like a smart board that you it's a touch screen. He put that in front of the board because it's the heaviest thing in the classroom. Just as an extra layer of protection, because we don't have a closet of some sort in that room. So that's really what we did. And then we stayed quiet. And we were in that room for 30 minutes until they evacuated us. And we continued to hear screaming from the police. And really just it was this very haunting moment for everyone.
What was the moment like when you were finally able to reunite with your family?
Honestly, I was just glad that I wasn't one of the 4 killed, and I'm glad I wasn't one of the 9 wounded. And I'm sure my mom was really happy to know that I was safe and I was okay.
No doubt she was relieved to see that you were okay. The suspect, the young gunman, only 14 years old. Do you know him at all? Do you know anything about him?
I do not know anything about him or who he is. I've never heard of him from the school, at the school. All I'm saying is that what he did was the same.
You know, my generation, we grew up with fire drills. Your generation has grown up with active shooter drills in school. When you went through that training, did you ever actually think that you would have to put it to use in real life?
Never. No, never, ever. And then when it happened, we were prepared, but it's just nothing you're going to expect from a normal day of school. You think you're going to go to school for 7 hours, learn, come home to your family. Some people didn't even make it out of that school, and it's just really sad.
Cameron, we're glad that you are okay. We are thinking of your entire community right now. Thank you so much for taking a few moments to join us this morning.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.
Let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Evie Pomporis. She's also a former Secret Service special agent. Just Evie, first of all, when you hear stories like that and what students in America are going through right now and teachers, what goes through your mind?
From an emotional standpoint, it's sad. Like you, I grew up in a generation where we did fire drills and not active shooter drills. But from a law enforcement standpoint, when I hear that the school did do drills and that the students were prepared, they knew what to do, that's a good thing because it's repetition and muscle memory. And when you do these things and something like this happens, you move into motion. You can hear the student. He's saying that the teacher told him to go low, get down in a corner, which is smart, get away from the windows, go in an area where you can't be seen, and even putting something to block the view of the door of the shooter looking in. And, even if you can't find cover in a situation like that, cover is something that can stop a bullet. Even concealment is good. Something that the shooter can't see, they can't engage. And a lot of, I think, what the students will be dealing with is not just the trauma of the incident itself, but it's even the post stuff, the things that happened afterwards, sitting there 30 minutes in silence, trying to figure out what to do. It's also very unnerving for parents as well.
When you heard that every teacher at this school had a security button on their ID tags that they can press to alert police in active danger situations, they've only been using it for about a week. I had never heard about this. What was your reaction to that?
It's a smart device to have. It's quick. It reminds you a bit of the banks, right? When a bank gets robbed, they have that button that you push and a message gets passed so that they know that there's imminent danger. It's a good thing to have. You know, you want to have a balance. You want to secure schools, but you don't want to harden them up so much where it creates this place that is fearful. It's a fearful place. It's a reminder that something can go bad. So it's finding really that balance of creating a security system that can notify law enforcement that there is a danger, and then at the same time, securing students. The other thing that, though, we really need to look at is the shooters themselves. Why is this happening? If we look at 2024, and actually if you look at the K through 12 database, the researchers have found that you usually get a mass shooting like this about 2 to 3 times per year. That's stayed pretty consistent when it comes to that. But when we look at where they're happening, if you look at just 2024, we've had 3 shootings similar to this. The previous 2 were inspired actually by Columbine. Those shooters were inspired by the long ago Columbine shooting. They were actually executed or taken out, those shootings, about 40 to 50 miles outside of a major city. One was in Wisconsin, one was in Iowa. Here we have a similar pattern, about an hour outside of Atlanta. That's one thing we're seeing. So what's happening in these kind of rural areas, isolated communities, and then we want to look at the shooter. I've heard reports of other students who did know the shooter saying he was quiet, kept himself. And again, we kind of see that pattern emerging as well. What's going on? So we really have to understand what is happening in the minds of these individuals. How can you prevent it? Another pattern we see with shooters, access to weapons. Typically what we see in these type of scenarios, the individual has either a parent with a weapon, a family member with a weapon, or a relative with a weapon. The access to weapons typically is done legally. And so that's another thing to look at. And what's also really interesting for this particular individual is you were reporting earlier that he was on the radar of the FBI and law enforcement a year ago because he had made threats to do another shooting. They probably subverted that. What they probably don't realize is they probably stopped that incident from happening last year. The issue is he ended up waiting, being patient, and probably carrying it out a year later. The thing with law enforcement, though, is what they're going to probe into the conversations, what happened, whether you have probable cause or not to arrest someone or apprehend someone. And that's the issue. Sometimes law enforcement's hands are tied. There's only so much they can do. So if they don't have probable cause, it kind of stops there.
Yeah. We'll learn more as the investigation gets underway. Evie Pompouris, thank you for your time and analysis this morning. We do appreciate it. To politics now. We are 5 days away from the first and potentially the only debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump. The 2 campaigns have come to an agreement on the rules and format for next Tuesday's debate in Philadelphia. This comes as Harris has picked up another endorsement from a high-profile Republican. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Cedric Alexander joins us now with all the latest. Peter, good morning. So we had all this back and forth publicly about the debate on whether it will take place and what the rules are going to be. And now it seems like we're back where we started. What have we learned about this?
Yeah, so, Joe, this is going to be, as you noted, in Philadelphia next Tuesday, the 10th day of September. It's a 90-minute debate. There's going to be a pair of commercial breaks throughout that. No studio audience, similar to the one that existed before between Donald Trump and Joe Biden a little bit earlier this summer. The biggest sort of back and forth here was over whether or not mics would be muted when it is not your turn to speak. And ultimately, the Harris campaign relented and said they would go along with these rules that meant when it's not your turn to talk, you can't speak, or if you do, no one's going to hear it because your mic's going to be off. So that was one of the big takeaways. I should note that last night we heard from Donald Trump. He was doing an event with Sean Hannity of Fox News in Pennsylvania. He falsely claimed that Kamala Harris is going to see the questions in advance. There was no evidence that that's the case here. But this is where we are as we get set, and as evidenced by the debate earlier this summer, these can be really consequential. I should also note there was a coin toss yesterday to determine who got to go last, have the last closing statement. statement. Donald Trump won that. It means he will be the last to speak at that debate on Tuesday. Joe.
All right, Peter, let's talk about that new high-profile Republican endorsement for Vice President Harris. Former Congresswoman Liz Cheney throwing her support behind the Democratic VP. What should we know about this?
Well, perhaps not surprising, Liz Cheney has been one of the most outspoken critics of Donald Trump, dating back to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. She was the vice chair of the January 6th committee in Congress. She was speaking at Duke University yesterday and said that not only is she not going to be voting for Donald Trump because, as she described him, he poses a danger to this country, she said she will be voting for Kamala Harris coming up in the election. Clearly, Republicans have already felt like she had sort of alienated them, MAGA Republicans in particular. But it's notable because her father, Dick Cheney, was clearly a vice president. She's now going to be voting for the sitting vice president going forward. And she does still speak to a large audience of those Republicans who are disillusioned, dissatisfied, and quite critical of Donald Trump.
All right, Peter Alexander with the latest from the White House. Peter, thank you so much. And a programming reminder, we'll have coverage of next week's presidential debate hosted by ABC News. Our coverage gets underway Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern here on NBC News Now and on NBC. New this morning, Russian President Vladimir Putin is responding to new allegations of election interference made by the White House. Russia was hit with sanctions and criminal charges with what the Attorney General says are Russian government-sponsored attempts to manipulate U.S. public opinion ahead of the election. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now with the latest developments. Keir, good morning. So walk us through these allegations and then what we're hearing today in response from the Russian president.
Well, we had a kind of response, Joe, today from President Putin speaking at a forum in Vladivostok in Russia's Far East, but not a direct response to those allegations, that indictment from the U.S. government naming two employees of the Russian broadcast network RT, saying that they were involved in a scheme to send $10 million, according to the U.S. government, to a company in Tennessee that had a number of hosts who put out opinion programming on things like YouTube. Those hosts not knowing where the money came from, according to the U.S. government, but this money being Russian, and the allegation being that this is the Russian government and RT, which is very close to the Russian government, trying to skew the 2024 election. Now, what President Putin did do today, the Russians have said, by the way, that they will respond in kind to those indictments against Russians. But what President Putin did today was respond to a question about whether or who he would prefer to be the president of the United States. And he ended, ironically, by saying, well, it's up to the American people. But before then, frankly, Joe, engaged in a whole bunch of trolling that we're used to from President Putin, saying that he did support Joe Biden, but that now Joe Biden has left, and we've all been told to support Kamala Harris, so therefore that's what I'll do, making a reference to Kamala Harris's laugh, which suggests to me that he's actually paying President Putin very close attention to the kinds of tropes that we've seen during the election campaign season. So he did have things to say about the election, including that he did support President Trump, he says, but that not after the Trump presidency brought in sanctions against Russia. But I think a lot of them are very ironic, gaslighting even.
This is not, Keir, the first time Russia has been accused of election interference. Why is there such significant interest, as you note, there by the Kremlin to try and perhaps sway the election outcome, at least according to these allegations?
Well, I mean, clearly, the U.S. government's foreign policy has a big implication for Russia. I mean, I do think that the Kremlin's ambition, and, there are many, many, many who believe that the Kremlin's aim and ambition has been to see a second term of President Trump. There are others, though, and I think there's a lot to be said for this argument, who think that what the Kremlin really is just trying to do is to sow discord, to cause as much chaos as possible within the U.S. Political system. What's clearly not in doubt is that the Russian leadership does want to influence U.S. politics as far as it is able to, including by sending this money, according to this allegation, to an organization in the U.S. It does want to have an influence. The debate is always about what kind of influence. What does the Kremlin really want?
All right, Keir Simmons. Keir, thank you so much as always. Now to the latest in the legal troubles facing Hunter Biden months after he was found guilty on gun charges. Today, jury selection will begin in Los Angeles for another trial, this time for tax-related charges. Prosecutors allege he engaged in a scheme to get out of paying at least $1.4 million that he owed for taxes from 2016 to 2019. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Joining us now for more on this, NBC News correspondent David Noriega. He's outside of the courthouse. And for the legal side of things, we have NBC News Now legal analyst Angela Senadella. Good morning to both of you. David, let's start with you. So this is Hunter Biden's second trial this year, the second ever criminal trial of a sitting president's son. Remind us how we got here.
Yeah, Joe, good morning. So ever since Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race, the political stakes of this trial have diminished significantly. But as you pointed out, this is still a historical moment. And the stakes for Hunter Biden himself couldn't be higher because he was already convicted in federal court in Delaware for lying on a federal application to buy a gun, lying specifically about his drug use. If he is convicted again in this trial here in L.A., he faces a much stiffer penalty and potentially prison time. Also, this is yet another occasion in which the sordid details of Hunter Biden's personal life will be laid bare for the public to see. The case here specifically involves the years between 2016 and 2019 when he was in the throes of his addiction to drugs and alcohol, living here in Los Angeles, and according to federal prosecutors, according to the special counsel's office, not paying millions of dollars worth of taxes. Now, as far as how things are going to go today and over the next few days, today, as you pointed out, is the first day of jury selection. The judge has a pool of about 100 potential jurors. They'll be narrowing that down. The idea is for the trial itself to begin with opening statements on Monday.
So, Angela, let's bring you into the conversation there. You heard it there. Jury selection is, of course, how this starts. They're planning for 2 days with opening statements on Monday. Is that a realistic timeline for such a high-profile case? And what do we expect in the early part of this?
Yes, Joe. So I actually do think it is very reasonable. If you look at what happened in Delaware, jury selection only took 1 day. And there was maybe even more potential conflicts of interest, given that many of the jurors knew of the Biden family directly and intimately. So, look, jury selection has become rather efficient because the attorneys are limited pretty severely in what questions they can ask and the time limit. The judge really tries to move these things along. Even in Trump, in Manhattan, it only took 4 days total. So 2 days seems very reasonable, Joe.
David, I want to ask you more about the issue of addiction, which you touched on already. We've already seen some back and forth between the prosecution and defense about what details about Hunter's struggles with addiction can be presented at a trial. So what do we know there? Could it be tough to find jury members who aren't familiar with his story?
Yeah, Joe, so that was sort of the central tension between the prosecution and defense in the pretrial hearings leading up to today. Biden's attorneys are trying to basically put off the record all of the details involving what he spent his money on, what personal expenses he subsequently allegedly listed as business expenses, which was part of the special prosecutor's case alleging, tax evasion and filing fraudulent tax returns. The special counsel is trying to have as many of those details on the record as possible. That point is actually unresolved, Joe, as of this morning. The judge instructed the two sides to come to an agreement as to which details from, for example, Hunter Biden's memoir could be admitted into the court record and which could not. The special counsel's office is saying that Hunter Biden's counsel never actually came back to them with a proposal on that front. So we still don't know, and that is one of the big questions hanging over us today. As far as the juror pool, it's a pool of about 100 people. There's a questionnaire with some of the sort of standard questions you would expect, such as, it's basically getting at, is there anything that would prevent you from being impartial in this trial? Some of those questions, Joe, have to do with whether you have someone in your life who has struggled with addiction or whether you yourself have struggled with addiction. Given how common of an issue this is, that might become an issue in winnowing down this juror pool, but we'll just have to see in the days to come. Joe?
Angela, I also want to ask you, so the trial where he was already convicted, the gun charges, he's set to be sentenced in November for that. What can we expect there? And is it possible whatever happens there could impact this new case, especially if he's convicted in both?
So I think the sentencing could play an effect, but I don't think any of that trial should have a direct effect on this trial that's supposed to really start on Monday. They're very separate. The charges are different. And also the prosecutors very intentionally chose to bring them in two different venues, one in California and then one in Delaware, in order to maintain that separation. But given that he already does have a conviction, sentencing this time around, if he is convicted, could elevate that and make a possible sentence worse for for him.
All right. David Noriega and Angela Senadella, thank you both. Appreciate it. Rain showers continue to drench the Gulf Coast, with some areas expecting 3 to 5 inches. Flood watches are in place through Friday. For more details, let's get a check on your morning news now weather with meteorologist Angie Lastman. Angie, good morning.
Hi there, Joe. We continue to be dealing with that rain in the same spots that have been soggy over the past couple of days, and it doesn't look like a whole lot of improvement, at least over the next 48 hours. So the flooding is going to be our main concern as we see more of that rain in the picture here over the next 2 days. 5 million people from Corpus Christi stretched to basically New Orleans and into parts of Mississippi are under these flood watches. Those are going to last at least through the next couple of days as we gear up for more rain. This stationary front continues to be stationary. It's just sitting over top of right along that coastal region of the Gulf Coast. So folks there, again, expecting more in the way of rain. Now, today, specifically from Texas, centered over Louisiana, stretching to Florida. But even as we get into tomorrow, more of that works into parts of the southeast. So northern portions of Georgia, Alabama, parts of the Carolinas will see some of that action as well. Mainly just concerned about the flooding. That'll be something we watch through at least Friday, with the bullseye kind of centered across parts of New Orleans in Louisiana, and stretching from Texas, of course, to Florida along I-10. There will likely be some delays with multiple inches of rain expected. We're talking up to 8 inches in some spots. Meanwhile, out west, we've got a ridge of high pressure that's going to continue to extend from Mexico to British Columbia. This is creating a heat dome. So no surprise that we've got these really impressive temperatures out west for this time of year. 52 million people are under these alerts for heat warnings and heat advisories, including LA, Phoenix, and those are some of the spots that have been really impressive. We saw Phoenix, the warmest June, the warmest summer on record, the warmest year to date, and we're going to continue to see this run of 56 days today where temperatures will be over 110. That previous record of 55 days of 110 or more was set back last year, so not that long ago, but today it'll be quite impressive with a high of 113. Yuma heads to 117. We've got 107 on tap for Thursday in Las Vegas, and we really don't see a whole lot of improvement. LA by Friday, Joe, it'll be the hottest day in 2 years with a high of 103, so no fall in sight out west just yet.
No way. All right, Angie, thank you so much. Much more to come on this hour of morning news now, including why NASA has decided to bring home its Starliner spacecraft without its crew on board. But first, after the break, not backing down. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu defiant, telling the world he will not withdraw troops from the Gaza-Egypt border in the wake of days of protests over the deaths of those 6 hostages. We are on the ground in Tel Aviv next. We're back now with the latest on the war in Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a second press conference in 48 hours as he continues to face intense pressure to reach a ceasefire deal. Here's NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez.
Hey there, nearly 11 months into this war, ceasefire negotiations appear badly stalled. The White House says one sticking point is which Palestinian prisoners will be released in exchange for Israeli hostages. But another is what U.S. officials increasingly see as Prime Minister Netanyahu's unwillingness to make a deal.
Just to understand. This morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu under mounting pressure from protesters on the streets demanding he make concessions to reach a hostage deal, and from an increasingly frustrated Biden administration. 5 sources tell NBC News the U.S. is considering a direct deal with Hamas to free the remaining American hostages. The U.S. has not made a formal offer, but sources say the White House is losing faith Netanyahu will make an agreement. This is the Philadelphia corridor. The Israeli leader says he wants the hostages home, but will not withdraw troops from the Egypt-Gaza border, known as the Philadelphia corridor.
Gaza must be demilitarized, and it can only be demilitarized if the Philadelphia corridor remains under firm control.
His position on the corridor is a major part of the stalemate in ceasefire talks. And some of the families of the 6 hostages killed by Hamas last week say it led to their deaths. The IDF releasing video of the tunnel where it says they were killed. 27-year-old Almog Sarusi was the first to be buried, his mother giving an agonized eulogy.
The mother of Almog Sarusi, one of the murdered hostages, says you sacrificed her son on the altar of the Philadelphia corridor. If the price of your refusal to withdraw from the Egypt-Gaza border is more hostages are killed, is that a price you are prepared to pay? And is that a price the people of Israel will accept?
I can understand the great torment that the mother of this murdered hostage feels. I'm committed to getting all of them out.
Neither the Prime Minister nor the protesters backing down.
And we're following a shooting near the Israeli consulate in the German city of Munich earlier. Police there say the shooter has been killed. It's not clear if the Israeli consulate was the target, but this comes on the anniversary of the 1972 Munich massacre when 11 Israeli Olympians were killed by Palestinian terrorists. Back to you.
All right, Raph, thank you. More international headlines now. Breaking news this morning, France finally has a new prime minister 2 months after that surprise election ended in a deadlock. NBC's Claudio Lavanga joins us from Rome with that and some other world news. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. France's President Emmanuel Macron has named Michel Barnier as the country's new prime minister. Now, Barnier is known as the man who negotiated on behalf of the European Union when Britain decided to leave. Now, the 73-year-old is France's oldest prime minister for more than 60 years. Now to East Africa, where a marathon runner from Uganda who competed in the Paris Olympics has died from the horrific injuries caused by her ex-boyfriend. On Sunday, the 33-year-old Rebecca Cheptegei suffered burns to 80% of her body after her ex-boyfriend allegedly doused her in petrol and set her alight in her home. The horrific accident took place just weeks after she took part in the Paris Olympics marathon. And we end this hour in Jakarta, Indonesia, where Pope Francis visited the largest mosque in Southeast Asia and vowed to fight violence inspired by religion and to protect the environment. He traveled to the iconic Istiqlal Mosque for an interreligious gathering with representatives of 6 religions. Indonesia is the first leg of a journey that will take the Pope also to Papua New Guinea, East Timor, and Singapore in what will be his longest trip of his papacy. Back to you, Joe.
All right, Claudio, thank you so much. Coming up, down to earth after the break, why NASA has decided to bring its Starliner spacecraft back home without its crew on board. More on that decision as those 2 astronauts settle in for a months-long stay aboard the International Space Station. We'll be right back. We're back now with NASA's new return plan for Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. NASA says the troubled ship will return on Friday, but without those 2 astronauts on board. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has more.
3 months into what was supposed to be a 10-day mission, astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams are now preparing to close the hatch and send their Boeing Starliner home without them. Just after 6 p.m. on Friday, NASA will remotely undock the troubled spaceship from the space station, then guide it back to Earth, as Williams and Wilmore settle in for another 5-month stay on the station.
They're very much engaged, asking questions. I think they're happy that a decision was made and they understand the plan forward.
Still haunted by the Challenger and Columbia disasters that killed 14 astronauts, mission managers decided last month they will not risk putting Williams and Wilmore on a Starliner with engine thrusters that could potentially malfunction on re-entry.
NASA has decided that Butch and Sonny will return with Crew 9 next February.
Ignition. Engines full power, and liftoff.
The SpaceX Crew 9 mission will launch later this month with 2 astronauts rather than 4. Williams and Wilmore will fill the empty seats on return. Until then, they'll continue working on the station and doing long-duration cardio and strength exercises. But NASA insists the crew is not stuck in space, since they could ride Starliner home if the space station were in danger.
In my view, they were never really, they're never stuck or stranded. They always had a way to depart the space station.
But that would only be if the space station had an emergency.
Copies OF1 at 170 meters, and looks like good separation.
To send Starliner home without the astronauts, NASA plans to use the troubled thrusters to gently back away from the station to avoid causing any damage.
And that is just to take the Starliner away from station and then immediately start going up and away, and eventually it'll curve around to the top and deorbit from above station a few orbits.
If all goes well, Starliner will land without its crew in the New Mexico desert just after 12 a.m. Saturday.
Our thanks to Tom Costello for that report. One Alaska couple is calling it a miracle. They are lucky to be alive after they were buried under their couch during a recent landslide. Well, now they have a second miracle. Look at that. Their dogs were also just pulled out of the rubble, saved by the same couch. Reporter Olivia Nordyke with our affiliate station KTUU in Alaska talked to the couple, and there's photos of the dramatic rescue.
I couldn't stop crying. I was on the floor and I could not believe.
After losing all they owned last Sunday, Bill and James Monteviere thought they lost their pets too.
At 7 days, and nobody had heard a sound. I mean, not a sound. And the fire chief had been through the entire house on Friday.
When he said he didn't see them, didn't hear them.
Yeah.
That night, we went home and said our goodbyes to both of them.
Geologist Travis Watkins heard whimpering near Bill and James Monteviere's house, exactly 1 week to the day it was destroyed, and asked first responders to come check it out. Crystal Schleif, the firefighter who found the dog, says they didn't make a peep while they searched.
I saw eyes. So I got up there. We moved a little bit more debris, passed that back, and then I went to scoop for the little eyes that I could see, and then I felt biting on my glove, and that's when I found the other dog.
You can see from this photo, Alani, a Shih Tzu mix on the left, and Cassie, the long-haired dachshund on the right, are on a sofa.
The sofa that saved me saved them.
They were at the other end of the sofa, but everything in between was flat as a pancake.
Yep.
But they were trapped in a little triangular type area.
The vet said they were slightly dehydrated, but really not that much. And they were hungry. You know, every time we take a bite of something, they look at us because the vet told us to be careful what to feed them. And it's like, you're killing us. You're not feeding us. This is our second miracle. So now miracles happen in threes. So maybe the insurance company is finally going to say we're going to pay. That would be a third miracle.
All right, I'm glad they're in good spirits. Our thanks to Olivia Nordyke for that story. Coming up, are you ready for some football? After the break, we've got a preview of all the NFL action when the Chiefs and Ravens take the field tonight in Kansas City for a season opener that'll surely be one to remember. Plus, the hot debate among players over some extra padding added to helmets during games. Got more on that next. Back now with some money news, starting with the latest on all that Disney data that was leaked by hackers earlier this summer. CNBC's Savannah Henao joins us with that and some other money news. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, so a large group of files from Disney that leaked online this summer reportedly includes financial information that sheds light on the company's operations. The Wall Street Journal says the data has granular details about revenue generated by Disney Plus, pricing models Disney has modeled for its theme parks, and what appear to be login credentials for some employees and customers. A Disney spokesman says the company is declining to comment on the unverified information. Disney told investors last month it's investigating the unauthorized release of more than a terabyte of data. Lyft has a new subscription service where riders can lock in a fixed price during peak or surge hours. Price lock costs $2.99 a month. Lyft claims it can save members up to $40 a month, as you'll pay less if the ride ends up being cheaper than the locked-in price. And we're just hours away from the kickoff of the NFL season, and CNBC is out with its inaugural list of team valuations. Rankings are based on overall franchise value, factoring in revenue, profit, and debt. The average NFL team is worth $6.5 billion, thanks to new media deals, sponsorship revenue, and non-football events at team-owned stadiums. The Dallas Cowboys tops the list with a value of $11 billion, followed by the LA Rams, New England Patriots, New York Giants, and Las Vegas Raiders. You can find the entire list over at CNBC.com.
All right, Silvana, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Also new this football season, some players might be wearing extra padding during games. It's because for the first time, the NFL is letting players wear these Guardian caps on their helmets. They're supposed to add another layer of protection against serious long-term brain conditions. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has the details.
Football, it's America's game, with the biggest crowds, the biggest plays, and the biggest hits. But this season, the NFL is taking additional steps to protect its players from the impact of all those blows, allowing them to wear Guardian caps during regular season games. It slips over a helmet and softens the impact by up to 33%, according to the manufacturer. The question now, will the players actually wear them?
This is a Guardian cap.
Colts tight end Kylan Granson plans to.
All it is essentially a little extra padding on the exterior of the helmet.
And he's hoping his stance rubs off on others.
Prioritize your safety because, it's a hard game. It's hard on the body. And, there's life after football.
But some other players in the rough and tumble world of the NFL have scoffed at the idea of extra protection. One player writing on X, "These caps make no difference." Another simply saying, "Ew."
Do you think the primary pushback from people is just it looks weird?
Some of it definitely is. It looks kind of silly to them. My health takes precedent over aesthetic and look or comfortability.
Guardian caps first appeared on the practice scene in 2022, the NFL ultimately requiring them for most positions, but there was no option to wear one in a game until now. The NFL says it wants to lower the frequency of major blows to the head as medical experts fear the long-term impact of all those hits, like CTE.
CTE stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a degenerative brain disease that starts while someone is an active athlete getting hundreds or thousands of hits to the head.
The progressive condition can cause a long list of symptoms, from depression and anxiety to aggression, memory loss, and dementia. A recent study found it's not just concussions that cause CTE, but cumulative hits over the course of a career.
We think the Guardian cap's doing two things. One is that the additional padding is limiting the amount of force that's actually going into the brain. And number two, they slide on the surface of the helmet, dispersing some of that energy.
The NFL reports a 52% drop in concussions during preseason practices among players wearing the Guardian caps. Though Nowinski notes there's no peer-reviewed study yet published that backs up the league's data. The NFL has also been funding the development of new helmets with extra protection, which have tested so well, according to the league, they can be worn instead of Guardian caps in practice. But experts still warn, there's no silver bullet.
There is always a risk that the better the equipment gets, the more players feel invincible and use their head as a weapon.
For now, Granson says the decision to wear a Guardian cap for pros and younger players alike is a no-brainer.
I think it's definitely important for safety starting early.
Our thanks to Sam Brock for that report. Of course, in case you haven't heard, you can catch the Ravens take on the Chiefs to kick off this year's season tonight. That game will be on NBC and Peacock starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. Coming up, we are flipping the script with the one and only Michael Urie, a star of both stage and screen, making his triumphant return to Broadway in the lauded revival of an American classic, Once Upon a Mattress. That's not all he's got up his sleeve. We are going to chat with Michael live right here after this. Stay with us. We're back with our series, Flipping the Script, featuring people on screen, on stage, and behind the scenes, shining a spotlight on diversity. Enter Michael Urie. He's currently starring on Broadway as Prince Dauntless in the revival of Once Upon a Mattress, which is loosely based on the fairy tale The Princess and the Pea. That's not the only place you're going to be able to catch him. Next month, he's back in his recurring role on the hit show Shrinking with Harrison Ford and Jason Segel. He's also in the new film Goodrich with Michael Keaton and Mila Kunis. He is busy, and we are excited to have him here on set with us this morning after doing not one but two shows yesterday. You look great. You're wide awake. You're ready to go.
Thank you.
To be doing Once Upon a Mattress, which, of course, people know is the show that launched Carol Burnett decades ago. What does it mean to be a part of this now?
Well, this is one of those shows that so many people did in middle school or high school or camp or community theater. So I see so many people after the show at the stage door who say, I played Dauntless, or I played Lady Larkin, or I played Winifred. And so people have a really personal connection to this show. And it's what made Carol Burnett a star. I mean, there are not very many shows that you can cite that were star-making vehicles like this one.
So with so many people saying, I played Dauntless, how did you make Dauntless your own?
Oh, well, part of it was just playing off of Sutton Foster, who is our incredible Princess Winifred. You sort of just like show up with her and magic happens. She's so incredibly dynamic. We also have a new script from Amy Sherman Palladino, who created the Gilmore Girls and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So it's very zippy and funny and fresh. But I didn't know this. I didn't do this show in camp or
You're the
middle
only
school.
one, right?
I'm the only one. So I was able to like kind of come at it with fresh eyes. And in fact, when they came to me and asked me to do it, I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know who Prince Dauntless is. Of course, when you are named Dauntless, that gives you an idea of like
how to tackle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there a moment where you thought about not doing it or debated it?
Never.
Okay.
Not even for a second. Yeah. I saw Sutton Foster and I said yes.
All right, there you go. Let's talk about television now, because Shrinking, which is a hugely popular show, people are loving this show. It's streaming on Apple TV in October. At the end of last season, you were about to marry your on-screen husband. I don't want you to give too much away, but what should we expect here in season 2?
So now we're navigating being husbands and what that means. My character was, he's a little neurotic. He, in the first season, his mantra, everything goes my way, sort of gets tested, and he finds out that not everything goes his way. Season two for the entire show is about forgiveness, and where I begin is Jason Segel's character, Jimmy, is keeping something from me. So right away, he and I are at odds, which is very fun to play because playing opposite someone like him at odds is hilarious because
you're relishing it.
Yes, exactly, and we get to bicker and fight and everything. But my husband, the navigating being husbands and being a married man is a big part of the season. I don't want to give too much away, but
we don't want to do that.
We like take the next step, and he's ready, I'm not. And it's very funny. It's a great season. I can't wait for people to see it.
Something for folks to look forward to. You also have Goodrich coming out, a comedy with Michael Keaton. And what I think is interesting in both Shrinking and Goodrich, you're playing a gay character, but like it's not the defining part of their roles, which is like the way things seem to be now. How important is that when you think about the roles that you're taking?
Well, it's great. You know, I've been playing queer characters for quite a while now, and I did a lot of coming out scenes. I did a lot of, you know, queer trauma scenes, and it's really nice to be playing adults who have gotten past that hardship, who are just living their lives and who are existing in homophobia-free zones. That is a kind of a beautiful thing that there was a time I didn't know it was going to happen. I wasn't sure that was possible, and here we are. I'm navigating these sort of hetero worlds as a queer person, and it's safe and beautiful.
Well, you have done so much for the queer community. We are grateful to you for your representation over the years as well. Michael Urie, good to have you with us. Make sure to check out Once Upon a Mattress if you're in New York. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stick with us. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.